This is From Justin to Kane, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same. Welcome, everybody, to From Justin to Kane, the podcast where we take one critically acclaimed film and one not-so-critically acclaimed film, and we find everything that's the same about them. And this week was painful. Mike?
It's funny that you do that intro, even though like it comes seconds after you doing that actual, like a very similar sentence in the actual intro.
Oh, yeah, I guess I haven't listened to it in a while. You just use the same bit for every episode,
I do,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck it. Let me do something else then. We can just make it more casual then. I forgot you did that.
No.
Still be drunk.
Let's keep it in. This one's a chaotic episode.
Like if Tom Green had, made it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we could only dream.
You think we could get him on the podcast?
No. I met him once.
Really? Where?
I worked on a movie that he was making in Edmonton called Freezer Burn: The Invasion of Laxdale, one of his many straight-to-video films.
Oh, interesting. I probably know a bunch of people who worked on it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you know a lot of people. There's actually, I think there is a continuity error caused by me.
Really? What is it?
I was just a production assistant, but I left a chair like that I was sitting on, which I wasn't aware was a prop or a part of the set. I was sitting on this chair and then I moved it. And so there's a chair in the background and one of the shots is moved. Because I just kept filming. Nobody, I guess the script supervisor wasn't on it.
So in the credits, instead of it saying continuity, it says lack of continuity, Mike Robertson.
Yeah, I wonder, I actually should watch, maybe I'll watch that movie. I want to see if my credit's in that movie. Probably isn't.
I kind of want to see it because I like the concept.
What's that?
Well, I just imagine it's like a really cheesy, funny, sort of like 50s horror spoof.
Oh, you know about this movie?
No, just from the title.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like
you can glean a lot from that title.
Yeah, it's like a sci-fi movie. It has Tom Green and Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover's in it?
Yeah, I didn't meet him, though, but I saw him wandering around being a weirdo.
Nice. Maybe we should do that film for the podcast, too.
No.
That's neither here nor there.
No.
But that's cool that you met him. Is he nice?
Oh, it's super nice, yeah. I only talked to him for maybe like 30, 40 seconds.
Was he like, why are you sitting on that chair that's a prop? And you were like, oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Green. I'm so sorry.
No, he actually would just kind of randomly go up to groups of people and just join the group and start chatting with people. He was really nice.
Wow, what a down-to-earth guy.
Yeah. So
cool.
So yeah, a bunch of us were just in a group chatting and he just walked up to us and started hanging out with us. So I was like, oh, wow. Cool.
We're hanging out with Tom Green.
Yeah, that's my celebrity story.
Not as cool as like meeting Bill Murray in a subway or something, but
I did meet Bill Murray in the subway.
Did you?
Yeah, we both ordered a veggie deluxe, and we both went to reach for the same sandwich, and our hands touched.
Wow,
yeah.
Wow, so romantic.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. You could have interpreted that two ways, too. I mean, there's the Subway sandwich shop, and there's also the train shop.
Yeah, I know.
To get trains.
I know.
The train store, one might say.
Were you intending it as the train store?
No, I thought the sandwich shop was funnier, and I'm glad you were on my level.
Okay, good. Yeah, same, yeah.
Yeah. Because the sub sandwiches are funnier. Just talking about Subway is funny.
Subway is a funny place, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was
we should
a chaotic intro once again. So the movies that we're talking about, just so people have context.
Oh yeah.
Are the bad movie is Freddy Got Fingered, and
also the good movie in the eyes of Mike. I think this week Mike is like, we did two good movies, and they're just really unlike each other.
Two masterpieces, really.
But okay, yeah, whatever.
And the good movie with quotes around it. Not because it's like sarcastic, like it's good, but it's more
genuinely good.
It's genuinely good, but it's like in the eyes of the podcast, it's the good movie. And Freddy Got Fingered is the bad movie. Anyway, the movie that we're talking about is Spirited Away by
Hayao Miyazaki.
Miyazaki.
Yeah. This one he wrote and directed, the Japanese version,
and
which is cool.
First similarity, right out of the gate between these two movies, they both came out the same year, 2001.
Oh my God, I didn't even realize
they came out within 3 months of each other.
Wow,
Freddy
the
Got
same
Fingered,
cue.
Freddy Got Fingered came out April 18th or 20th of so like a week from now it's celebrating its 20th anniversary.
Wow.
So this is kind of, even if we didn't mean to, we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of Freddy Got Fingered.
Of both films.
Yeah.
Well, both films really, but I guess we are. This is sort of this is going to be a really special episode, I can tell, Mike.
Yeah. Spirited Away came out in July. So a couple months.
In Japan, you mean? So it's famous because it made over $200 million before it entered the US market.
Well, you should know what the release date is because you're the one who did research on the movie.
Shut up. Yeah, let me look it up real quick. Japan, July 20th, 2001. And then it didn't make it to the US until 2002.
Okay, well, there you go. That makes sense.
April 20th, San Francisco International Film Festival. It wasn't widely released, like for commercial stuff, until 2003. Isn't
that makes more sense.
This is like right before the internet fucked everything up and films could like be in the zeitgeist for more than 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this film like did the festival circuits. It was released in Japan, then Hong Kong, then Singapore, then Taiwan, then the Philippines, and then it started doing festivals in Germany, the U.S., Russia, the U.S. again. It did TIFF in 2002, but it was already a year old. Whereas like nowadays, that shit can't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like nobody's talking about the Snyder Cut anymore. That's over. Dead.
Aren't they? I thought that people have been talking about the Snyder Cut for 3 years.
I mean, not the diehards. I mean, just the normies, the casual.
Oh yeah, I know. Everybody was talking about
people.
the Snyder Cut on Twitter for a couple of weeks, and then now
they're not.
Now we've moved on to the next superhero thing people are mad about, which I think is the show that's on Disney Plus. People are mad that Captain America is an average-looking guy, I think is what people are mad about. I haven't looked into it enough because I don't care.
I would be upset if that were the case. Anyways, yeah, so I guess Spirited Away did a real festival circuit. Did Freddy Got Fingered do a big old festival circuit? It seems like an indie powerhouse film in the eyes of Tom Green.
No, it was actually meant to be a huge movie.
Was it?
Well, you weren't around then, really.
I was 4 years old when this film came out. So, both films, actually.
And I saw this in the theaters, so I don't know.
As a grown-up.
Not as a grown-up, no, as a teen, but...
Oh, a teenager.
Oh, wait.
Wow, little
I was
Mike.
A teenager.
Mike, like, you would have been, like, what, 13 or something?
I think I was 18.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, you're right. I can't do mental math today. It doesn't matter. Okay, well, you know what? Let's just... Mike, I want you to paint the picture. What was the experience like? I imagine you going to Freddy Got Fingered is like a flashbulb memory in your mind that will never, distort. Like it's crystal clear in your eyes.
I mean, you're not wrong.
So tell me, what was it like?
Well, yeah, it was me and a bunch of friends. We went and saw Freddy Got Fingered in the theater. It was a momentous occasion. Tom Green was like at the height of his powers. And it was a packed theater. This was in Fort McMurray, Alberta, where I live. And yeah, packed theater, and people were just losing it. It was like the way you want to see a comedy movie. Just like people were like laughing. So even when I was seeing it, I had no idea that people thought it was bad, because when you're seeing it in the theater, everybody's loving it.
Well, and they're probably all... Chances are you were there, like, with all the fans.
Exactly.
Not just like, my parents walking in and they're like, what's Freddy Got Fingered? What's that all about? And then they watch it and they're horrified. People are going in and they're like, I love Tom Green. He's so esoteric and absurd,
Yeah, it was
That
very
was my
of the
mic
moment.
impression.
It was very of the moment.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just remember loving it. Everybody was having a hoot. Just
Did you have
all of,
popcorn?
oh, I don't know. How could I remember that? Probably.
I thought it was a flashbulb memory, and you just had it like locked in with
Yeah, but it was
lasers.
just like a flashbulb, like a moment in time. Whether or not I was holding popcorn in that moment,
Neither here nor there.
I just remember people like losing it in the theater. Everybody was laughing really loud. So that's what you
Right.
want out of a movie like this, and I think that was the intention also, which I think a lot of people forget.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting. How many times have you seen the film?
Maybe 4 times, maybe 5 times. I think
And
we had it on DVD,
Oh, okay.
and then I watched it a couple days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think I watched it recently, like maybe 10 years ago. But then previous to that, a couple of times after it came out.
How are you feeling about it now? Like, you did text me and you did say it's better than you remembered.
That's true. Yeah, it is better than I remembered.
So,
Yeah.
Did you genuinely like enjoy it when you watched it yesterday or the day before or whenever?
Oh, I was laughing really hard. Yeah, there's some good parts
Really?
in it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
think a lot of it is mindset. I think you have to go into it just like expecting something. Also, I think it's fine for people to hate it the first time they see it, and then to revisit it and with like a different perspective, having already seen it and kind of know what you're expecting. Because I think you can kind of unpack things a little bit better.
Yeah, probably. I think I was caught off guard. I really didn't know what I was getting into, and then the bits and I just wasn't aware of what it was going to be. So maybe next time I watch it in like 2040, I'll really enjoy it.
Well, I think a good comparison is Monty Python and the Holy Grail, believe it or not.
Right.
Because that movie is a pretty loose story where they have to get the Holy Grail. And then the composition of the film is that it's just a series of scenes that are kind of like loosely connected, but are mostly like mini sketches.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Freddy Got Fingered is, because Tom Green's thing was he would just kind of do like on the street interviews with people and kind of be really bizarre and absurd and surreal.
Mm-hmm.
Or he would do like weird stunts. Like he would, he famously humped a dead moose, which was basically just dry humping a moose that was roadkill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not sure if it was actually a real moose. I assume it was. The deer stuff in this movie was fake, clearly. But
yeah. Yeah.
But
well, I guess he has a theme too. Like he likes roadkill and doing bits with roadkill.
Oh yeah, he had Mike Bullard on his show when he had a TV show in Canada, and he brought a dead raccoon in a suitcase.
Oh my God.
It just stunk up the room, and I think Mike Bullard threw up. But then he also got a chainsaw and he cut the suitcase in half. So it was like,
oh, Jesus.
It was like
That's
extreme
so
on
messy.
a level that people weren't used to, I think, at the time, which was, I think, why he got famous.
Well, and an audience now would be desensitized to that.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of normal. There's a brand of comedy now that's sort of normalized, that's very extreme and edgy and pushy. Pushy. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's not a word. Anyways, you know what I mean.
I think Tom Green actually, believe it or not, influenced a lot of comedy now, for better or worse. But I think he was
too.
like, he did a lot of things before people now would do it. So,
well, there's definitely like Eric Andre vibes as well as
Eric Andre show is like the Tom Green show essentially.
Yeah, they're so similar
different. And Eric Andre show is very polished version of what Tom Green's show was like, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like almost
I think You Should Leave Now, that sketch show, similar to like how what's that guy's name?
Tim Robinson.
Yeah. Similar vibe too. I think there's a lot of influence there.
Yeah, I would say there's some influence. Yeah. He famously also painted his parents' house plaid while they were at work, like the outside of his house. And then one thing I remember him doing was he painted like a graphic lesbian sex scene on their car while they were at work too. And I think he would occasionally like do stuff to them while they were asleep too. Like he just basically harassed his parents. But this is when he was on a cable access TV show in Canada. So
right.
Yeah.
How long is that show on?
Well, I mean, I can get into some facts, I guess.
Oh yeah. Let's do it. I want to hear. I'm curious about this guy's career because his IMDb is like he was really busy right at the beginning of the 2000s, and then it really got murky. The water got murky around the 2003 mark or whatever.
Oh yeah. Well, I actually read his autobiography too.
Of course you did.
Me and my friend, when we were in high school, wanted to have our own cable access show like Tom Green. And we wrote a little theme song on the piano. We did got stuff ready, some ideas and stuff, but we never actually went to the cable access, like the cable network in town, like Shaw, the cable.
Should have done it. Yeah.
Yeah, we never actually went there to actually get it set up. Because I'm sure we could have got something because, yeah. They were always looking for stuff. Exactly. They were always looking for stuff. So, but anyway, so Tom Green, the man, is a comedian, the man and the myth, truly. He started on cable access in Ottawa, then he moved to the Comedy Network, and then he was picked up on MTV and became an unlikely star. So the Canadian show aired from 1997 to 1999.
Right.
And then MTV picked it up, kind of like rejiggered a lot of his bits from the Canadian one. So they already had a couple of years of content ready to go. But then they shot new segments and stuff because it was in the States. And that happened basically from 99 until 2003-ish, with a few kind of hiatuses, which I'll get into. While he got famous on MTV, he also was also in the movie Road Trip, which was like a huge movie for him. He was also in the movie Superstar, the SNL movie, which wasn't huge, but he made an appearance. So he did have quite a bit of clout, especially after Road Trip, which was a career-making movie for Tom Green and the director of Joker, Todd Phillips.
Oh. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I can maybe make a little compilation of Tom Green classic clips for you if you want. If you want to see some stuff later, I can maybe try and find some of my favorites from the past.
That'd be cool.
There's some really, really funny, absurd stuff in there. He was kind of doing something that people had never seen before, so it makes sense that he kind of came out of nowhere and got very famous very quickly.
It's true.
Sometime around 2000, I believe, he got diagnosed with testicular cancer. And so he had to put a show on hiatus because it was causing him a lot of physical pain. And but they did film the cancer removal and just the whole process, and they made a documentary/TV episode about it. And the Tom Green cancer special, I think, won some awards. I think it won Emmys or Golden Globes or something.
Oh wow.
So it was supposedly a really good show, relatively speaking, I guess, because it was like a serious thing. But also they had all this graphic footage of his intestines being moved around too.
Which is in the movie, right?
Which is in the movie, yeah. You see it in the Freddy Got Fingered. So that's good stuff. And supposedly some people had, because of that TV special, had gotten themselves checked out and got their prevented dying of cancer, I guess. So Tom Green saved some lives.
The guy's just a modern hero, isn't he?
He truly is. He also famously was married to Drew Barrymore
for 3 weeks or something, wasn't it?
It was a couple of months, yeah. So
okay.
I remember when this happened, he went on SNL, talked about how he was gonna marry her live on TV, and then there was some other talk shows where they were talking about marrying her live on TV, and she always kind of got cold feet, and that was the bit. Call back to Runaway Bride. But then she did just divorce him, I guess, later that year anyway. So I don't know. It was a very short-lived romance, but one that was in the tabloids quite a bit in 2001. So I think it...
Well, I bet. And wasn't that what Drew Barrymore is kind of getting back in the game, so to speak?
Yeah.
Like the acting game after her sort of pause. It was in the 90s, right? She had a long stretch where she wasn't really working.
Yeah. No, she was always working, I think. But
was she?
She just kind of reinvented herself as... Because I remember in the early 90s, mid-90s, she was kind of seen as the bad girl. So, because
Okay.
she used to be a child star, she was an ET, and then
Yeah.
when she grew up, she kind of was the bad girl. So she like posed for Playboy, and she like flashed David Letterman, and she was in like a bunch of movies where she played like bad girls.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of rebranded herself a couple of years later as like a rom-com person, which ultimately
Right.
really worked out for her.
That's a good business move.
Yeah, because she was in The Wedding Singer, great film,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and Never Been Kissed. But that was like 97, 98, kind of 99. So
Interesting.
she had already
Okay.
kind of rebranded herself a couple of years previous to meeting Tom Green, but Tom Green appeared in Charlie's Angels in 2001.
Yes,
Or
that's right.
2000 maybe.
I think it was 2000, yeah.
So yeah, that was their connection. That's how they met. So so anyway, about Freddy Got Fingered, the movie,
Uh-huh.
because we've just been talking about Tom Green and Drew Barrymore, I guess. So yeah, Tom Green wrote the movie while they were working on the TV show. He was being offered a lot of scripts because he was like at the height of his powers, but he wanted to make his own movie. So him and his co-writer Derek Harvey, who he collaborated with on the TV show, wrote a movie called Freddy Got Fingered over the course of like a month or two while they were working on the Tom Green show on MTV. The studio that he was working with didn't want him to direct or make the script as written. And they fought with him about it, and he was very, very stubborn and didn't back down. So they told him they were going to put it in turnaround, which meant he had 30 days to sell it to someone else. Otherwise, they'll just throw it in the vault and not make it. So the next day, literally the next day, 20th Century Fox bought it. And the producers that he was working with were very, very good about just letting him have creative freedom. Yeah, he wanted to direct it. They were like, maybe. And then like a couple of days later, they're like, okay, you can direct it. Like it wasn't a lot of push and pull. It was, he just kind of said, I want this. And then they thought about it and they were like, sure, you're like super famous right now. They kind of just trusted his creative ability because he just kind of shifted the comedy landscape so dramatically in the course of like a year or two in America.
Mm-hmm.
While he was working on this movie, he was still kind of in pain from his testicle cancer stuff. So, because he got a testicle removed. So apparently he was in pain throughout the making of this film for like a good year and a bit.
Oh.
So a little quote from Tom Green. I interviewed 5 directors to direct Freddy Got Fingered, big comedy directors. When I was interviewing those directors, I was bedridden. They came to my house 2 weeks after my lymph node dissection. I couldn't get out of bed. I could hardly walk about for 5 weeks. William Shatner was my landlord, just had an element of absurdity to everything.
That's funny.
So, he got to make the movie. The budget was only $14 million, which seems like they really stretched that budget.
Yeah.
Because there's some like big stunts and stuff in this movie. And they did cut out a scene where he works for his uncle at the cheese factory in LA. So when he goes to work in the cheese factory, there's like a whole subplot where he interacts with his uncle, who is played by Stephen Tobolowsky. And they kind of do a reenactment of I Love Lucy, like a tribute to I Love Lucy in there. But the studio, after like the notes that they got from the screenings that they did, they just made him cut out a lot of the slower parts. So that's why the movie kind of has like a choppiness where it just kind of goes from story to extreme absurdity very quickly. Like the cheese factory part, he's like, I'm going to go work for a cheese factory. He shows up and then all of a sudden he's climbing on the conveyor belts and hitting people in the head with sausages and stuff. So basically there is probably a director's cut that should be being released this year if the movie gods...
Here's hoping.
Yeah, It's not going to happen, but we would have heard about it by now.
The 4-hour and 2-minute green cut.
Honestly, I would love that. Should we get that trending? Release the green cut?
Yeah, release the green cut. Let's try.
I know that
we'll use Twitter.
I know some people have already been talking about that.
Well, let's get on that bandwagon.
I mean,
good.
I agree.
I want this for you, not for me, by the way.
So anyway, the movie was considered a flop because it only made $15 million back. Tom Green himself thinks the movie should have done better because the screenings were always packed.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was an R-rated film at the time, it was almost rated NC-17. All of his fans are teens, so most people couldn't see it in the theater. So a lot of people would buy tickets to Crocodile Dundee, which kind of came out
And then
back
sneak in.
And then sneak in because he said the studio said that that Crocodile Dundee did way better than expected, and his movie did way worse than expected, even though the audiences didn't reflect that literally when you were in the room.
You know what, man? I believe it.
I believe that too.
There's probably a 100% correlation there, and that's fascinating. You could make a film and then other films profit off of it just by virtue of kids trying to get into an R-rated film.
Yes. Yeah.
I used to do shit like that too, so I've never thought about it.
I've snuck into many a movie. We used to do a thing called heists where we would we'd pay for one movie and then we'd see two.
Oh yeah, I've done that before.
But then we also had like a caper, which we'd pay for one movie and we see three. Like we had like actual scale.
And then what would you call it if you did 5?
We call it the big one.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
I've done a few capers. We only ever did one big one, I think, and it was just you felt like crap by the end of the day. And also, I was like
sitting in a
if you're going to South Common, the movie theater here in Edmonton, and you're trying to pull the big one, you are kind of at the mercy of whatever's showing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you got to watch whatever.
You just kind of have to watch whatever. There's a few times where we would actually just go from good movie to good movie, but then sometimes it's just like you just see whatever crap is there. So, but I've done a couple of heists and seen some great stuff. Like doing a heist is good because you can plan out the movies you want to see.
I did a heist by accident in Vancouver. I went to see Ad Astra, and then I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood right after. So I did a Brad Pitt double feature. And I didn't really pay for it, and it was awesome. And it was good. And they were both like 3-hour movies, too, so I was in the theater for a long time.
But just the idea of seeing multiple movies in a theater, for some reason, it takes a lot out of you, even though the seats are comfortable.
I think it requires a certain level of work, and if you're doing it, heist or caper-wise, you're always on edge. You're always looking over your shoulder, you know what I mean? Because you've chosen a life of crime. That's a burden that never gets lifted once you've committed yourself.
Well, there's certain movie theaters where the security is so like lax that you can do it. And then those same movie theaters will like you can just go to a movie and then if you buy a large popcorn, you can get free refills.
Yeah.
And there was at South Common at one point they had a Slurpee machine that was self-serve. Yeah, so basically you could just go and self-serve yourself because nobody was monitoring it. So you could go self-serve yourself a Slurpee, and then you could go get refills of your popcorn. So you basically got unlimited food for the day. It was like terrible for you.
Yeah, but also awesome.
So you only ever had to pay like maybe $20 to just be, drinking multiple Slurpees, eating multiple large popcorns, and seeing maybe 2 or 3 films. Like,
so you're a thief and a glutton.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of sins being committed.
Sins. And sloth by virtue of just fucking sitting there, watching movie after movie.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
I hit 2 or 3 of the main sins for sure. Yeah,
Mike's 7 deadly sins. That's good. Eating popcorn, watching movies. Anyways,
it's what it's all about, man. It's what being a cinephile is all about.
Hey, there we go, a cinephile.
Just a couple more things about Tom Green. He famously also was on The Celebrity Apprentice.
What? What year?
I think 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Oh. And he famously kind of had one of the shorter tenures on the show. I think he was only on it for 3 episodes and then was kicked off. Or maybe he was kicked off on the first episode. But so he kind of just went on there because, his celebrity had waned by then quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But also he said that he kind of thought that show was hilarious and he wanted to just he just wanted to be fired by Donald Trump.
Yeah, like as a concept and an experience.
Yeah, because he thought Donald Trump was such a clown. So apparently after 3 weeks of filming Celebrity Apprentice, former President Donald Trump, which is a wild thing to have to say, fired Green after he went out drinking with Dennis Rodman. On the night that Green, Tom Green was tasked with being the team's project manager. So he basically didn't do his job as project manager and then was just fired because he went out drinking with Dennis Rodman, which is like, that's great. That's a baller move.
I would have done the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I
You
wouldn't
have
have
two
done the work.
options. You do this arbitrary project that's going to take a bunch of work, or you go party with a legend.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I think Celebrity Apprentice or just apprentice people probably work harder than Donald Trump does on a day-to-day basis. Like the people who are
Oh,
contestants.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then so Tom Green has been doing an online talk show in various formats since 2005. So he's been kind of ahead of the curve in terms of doing the internet talk show thing, just using the internet for video, I guess, in general. And he has had a podcast since 2013 as well. So,
Right.
he says he's really influenced by David Letterman, and he also got to host the David Letterman show when David Letterman was doing surgery, I think, back in 2003 or 4. So
Cool.
So yeah, I think Tom Green is a legitimate like TV presence. It's just his
You would
early,
say that.
well, I mean, yeah, I think it's true though, but I think his early stuff kind of in some eyes hasn't aged well. So he kind of is marred by that, I think, a little bit.
Yeah. He's certainly an interesting guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fascinating, and he's really he doesn't give up.
Yeah. And he has some die-hard fans to this day. Mostly from, I think, his web stuff, actually. Like, I remember when I was working on that movie with them, as soon as the takes were done, or as soon as he had a break, his camera guy would come out, and then he would start filming segments for his web show.
Huh.
And he'd call it Webovision. So he'd be like, hey, everybody, welcome to Webovision. And then he'd just like be talking about whatever's happening, or maybe he'd be pranking people on set or something like that. So,
were you ever in any of those videos, just like in the background, you just see like Mike Robertson chowing down on a hot dog, and you're just out of focus?
Maybe. I should go see if there's
should
something from
scour
2008.
the internet for you in the background of his videos.
I think I will.
Good.
So anyway, that's Freddy Got Fingered.
Cool.
It is just has been eviscerated by the critics. Also,
yeah, Roger Ebert famously loathes this film.
Yes, but he also famously kind of came around on it.
Did he? He changed his tune.
Well, he didn't say that it's a great movie or a good movie even, but he did say that it was kind of had ambition, and he kind of misjudged it a little bit.
Right.
But the movie has kind of had a bit of a renaissance in terms of people's opinion of it. I think a lot of people actually think it's super underrated. Like if you go on Letterboxd, most of the popular reviews for this movie are 4 and 5 star above.
Like your review of it.
My review is 5 star, of course. And then the average rating is 2.7, which is, kind of low. But if you look at the actual rating scale, it's not a straight line across, but like people have given it every rating pretty much.
Yeah.
Like rarely, you don't really see movies on Letterboxd specifically where people give it every rating. It's like either kind of to the top of, it's like closer to 5 or it's closer to 1, but you don't see movies where it's just like kind of, a little bit of a direct line from 1 to 5. So a lot of people think it's like a postmodern masterpiece or a surrealist, absurdist kind of like masterpiece, blah, blah, blah. This is a review from Eli Hayes on Letterboxd. So I guess follow this guy, whoever this guy is. Shout out to Eli. So the boldest, most tasteless work of postmodern surrealist absurdist nonsense of the 20th century thus far, floating back and forth through its own contained expanse of emptiness and madness, and exploiting the standard/traditional aesthetics of its time into a chaotic, incongruous, and tragically disgusting rejection of the contemporary cultural dogma.
Was that all one sentence?
I guess it kind of is, yeah. But that's like this person's review. A lot of people say misunderstood. That one is 4 stars. This one is 5 stars. It says misunderstood masterpiece. This one is 5 stars. It says, Daddy, would you like some sausage?
You should read my review.
This one is 5 stars from Malcolm. It says, the only movie that deserves to be called the film of a free man.
Huh. Okay.
So a lot of people, are polarized on this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can see why people like it
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
on an intellectual level, but yeah, just subjectively, I hated it.
I think a lot of people think that it is a like dissection of the comedy films that were being made at the time,
Mm-hmm.
of just like lazy man-child movies that are hateful and just characters insulting and fighting each other. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think people think it's like a kind of not a spoof, but just it's kind of taking the elements that make those movies and taking them to the extreme, you know? But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually think that that's not right. That's not true. I think it's just literally Tom Green being like, I have to make a studio movie. Let's just take a studio movie story and then let's just find ways to put my little sketches in there. Because
Mm-hmm.
things seem very kind of fudged in there, like when his girlfriend is like, if you want to, be productive when you work, try and eat something and, play some music. And he misinterprets that. And then it's just like, Daddy, would you like some sausage? And he has strings on a keyboard with
Attached his
sausages.
fingers.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's just a visual thing that he wants to do. And they find a way to put it in there. So I don't think that it's dissecting anything. I don't think it's actually saying anything. I think it's just like pure silliness. He's just trying to be extreme and silly.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. And I guess if you love that, then that's good. If you don't love that, you're a fool.
Not so good. You're a bad film
You're a
watcher,
bad
and
film
your
watcher.
ideas are wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's so juxtaposed watching Freddy Got Fingered and then Spirited Away, especially as a double feature. Man, oh
Yes.
man, they're sort of diametrically opposed tonally.
But the same.
But I mean, I gotta say, like, I got a long list of similarities.
Exactly. There you go.
Oh, I guess one last thing. I know it's a bit cliche to talk about, but the film won 5 Razzies.
Yeah, it did run. Yeah.
And he accepted his own. Like, he went to the ceremony and he had a whole speech planned and stuff.
Yeah, but then he also played a harmonica solo that went on until they dragged him off the stage. So I think he kind of like
It's another
he got the
chance
last
to
word on
perform.
them.
Yeah, the Razzies are stupid.
It seems like mean-spirited to, just say you made the worst thing ever. But some of their
Yeah.
categories are just very it just seems so
They're
mean.
cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
no,
like,
you're
of course,
absolutely right.
I don't know. The whole thing's so pointless and dumb.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also of very much of the time too, like early 2000s kind of like weird cynicalness.
Well, they're still around, right?
Oh yeah, they didn't go away. But it made more sense back then. Now it just kind of seems stupid and kind of mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially with like
No,
a
you're
million podcasts just dissecting bad movies.
Like us.
Well, but we're dissecting them and almost legitimizing them.
That's the hope.
That's the hope. And so by the end of this, I was hoping that you would come around and be like, you know what? Got to watch Freddy Got Fingered again.
Honestly, I kind of want to watch it a second time, to be honest, now that we've been chatting about it, because I think I know what to expect. And maybe also, I do think it would help if I watched a bunch of Tom Green stuff surrounding the movie, like sketches and other bits, and then I'd like have a better understanding of him and like his work and his vibe, and then watch the movie. Because I think like the movie just as like a cold only experience you have of Tom Green, you're just like, this guy sucks.
Yeah, it must
But
be weird.
Contextualized, he's more interesting, I think.
The more you read about him, the more you kind of watch clips from his old TV show. Yeah, this movie makes perfect sense. Like as a film, there's nothing confusing or startling about it when you see it in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
If you have been a fan of his stuff prior to this, but if you know nothing of the man, I can see why people hate it. Which like makes sense why Ebert would not like it because he has no context, and he was wrong about a lot of things too.
He hated Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And then he, 15 years later, he rewrote his review and he praised it. Yeah. So he's fallible like the rest of us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was a bit out of touch sometimes. He just didn't know what was going on in the culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, enough about your dumb movie. Let's talk about my dumb movie.
Yeah, we've spent most of an episode's length talking about Freddy Got Fingered.
Well, I think it's Tom Green is really interesting. This movie is really interesting. That period of time, Tom Green was a YouTuber before there was YouTube.
Exactly.
Like his nuts and bolts was like short form comedy, sketch,
Mm-hmm.
and like borderline performance art.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, he did like Webovision or whatever in the 2008 or 9 or whenever that movie was being made here. Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know. He's fascinating.
He's great.
Yeah.
And in many ways, this episode was the episode that like I feel like this podcast has been leading up to, for me at least.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because this is, I think people kind of say this is one of the worst films ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, The Room is kind of the Citizen Kane of bad movies, blah, 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 whatever people say. But
Yeah.
Freddy Got Fingered is like something special. So,
Yeah. And it's unique.
oh yeah, so unique.
Like it's like uniquely bad. Like The Room is like fun to watch bad,
Mm-hmm.
but so many movies are like that.
Yeah.
But Freddy Got Fingered has a totally different vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, maybe I'll come around, Mike.
Well,
Maybe I'll come around.
There was a scene that I picked up on. I know that we want to move on to the next movie. There's a scene I picked up on when I watched this time, when he goes to meet the animation guy for the first time, and then he accosts him at the restaurant. Yeah, the animation producer guy says it's all about escalation. You gotta, find a joke and then escalate it. And then that kind of is, to me, after seeing that, I was like, oh, that's kind of like the movie telling you its rules kind of thing, where it's like, this is what you're going to be getting out of this movie. It's just like escalated comedy bits, because every single like little bit escalates perfectly, I thought. Like I know a lot of people hate the part where he delivers the baby, but that's just like a perfectly crafted little like bit of comedy escalation,
I wouldn't say that.
Okay. But I'm not wrong though. I mean, yeah, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect bit, but it's like actually just the way that it goes from 0 to 60 is like just like it introduces all of these elements in such a way that by the end it's just like this chaotic thing that it's like either hilarious or just completely disturbing. But
what are your thoughts about the sex scene and his shirt gets lifted and the umbilical cord is duct taped to his abdomen?
I don't know.
Tell me, you loved it, didn't you, Mike?
I didn't love it. No, that part I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's kind of dumb.
Yeah,
but
yeah. And gross.
I also think that, if you're still kind of confused about the movie by the end of it, after kind of seeing how every single emotional dialogue scene is delivered, like the scene where he's lying on the ground with his dad at the very, very end, and they're talking to each other, and Tom Green kind of has this dead look in his eyes. It's like he's not being earnest at all, and he's kind of doing it in this weird kind of voice, and he's like, "Daddy proud, Daddy proud." It's like that. That's the entire film, right? You're not going to be getting a legitimate human experience from it. It's just funny, or silly.
Yeah, I mean, silly is definitely a word I would use.
Yeah.
I will say, I think my biggest complaint is there wasn't enough skateboarding.
Yeah, I figured you'd like the skateboarding.
I loved it. And the opening was sweet. And I'm like, this guy's just laying it down in a shopping mall while getting chased by mall security. Like, that's awesome.
That's your dream.
And then it was over before it started, And then they're building a half pipe, and then just that guy's leg breaks, and they don't even skateboard. And I was like, oh, like, get skating. You know what I mean? Just get after it a little bit.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to whether or not you enjoy kind of like the meta bit of like unfulfilled potential for some things, like a setup that doesn't have a payoff.
Yeah.
Like there's setups and payoffs in this movie, but they're like more comedic. And then there's some things that are set up and they don't pay off. Like his brother goes to the school for the molested children, and that storyline doesn't get resolved. The whole Freddy Got Fingered title aspect, the titular Freddy getting fingered, like that thing is just kind of dropped once it's introduced, and it's like that's funny in theory, but not unsatisfying.
You can
for some
look
people.
at it. It's either deliberate or it's really terrible screenwriting. But it's not in the middle. It's like it's either or. But which one is it? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what's beautiful. That's what's beautiful.
I guess that's why it's polarizing.
Exactly.
All the aspects of the film are like either his genius or he's just actually bad at it. Bad at filmmaking.
I feel like it is kind of a combination of both. I feel like it's his first time writing a screenplay, his first time directing a movie. He was in his like what, mid-20s, late 20s?
He was 28, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure that this was he's a learning curve for sure. I'm sure he would have done something differently. This was a second go around, but I don't know. I think for what it is, it's like a very interesting cultural relic.
So would the sequel to this film, like say he makes a sequel in 2022, would it be called Freddy Got Fingered Again?
Sure.
Or Freddy Got Fingered 2, like TOO.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, what does that mean? Okay, there's a lot to work with there. Anywho.
But you can never make a sequel to this movie.
No, it's unsequelable.
Yeah, who would want to see it? I mean, me, but
you would see it. You would pull a caper. You'd just stay in the theater 5 times, just rewatching it on loop.
Anyway, someone's got to buy a ticket for it.
Yeah, but you actually bought it for Crocodile Dundee 6.
Yeah,
because you're only 16. You can't get into it. It's R-rated.
Yeah. Well, I read something about this movie online where someone said that this movie makes less sense to people who have no context the more time goes on. Because if you were there and you kind of knew what Tom Green was about, you could love or hate it, but at least you kind of got what was going on a little bit. But I think a lot of people are just flabbergasted that in the age of just like too big to fail superhero movies, that a movie like this ever was funded by 20th Century Fox. Yeah.
Which is now no longer with us.
No.
20th Century Fox is gone, everyone.
Dead. I know. Beautiful.
Which is a bummer. Yeah. Okay, let's stop talking about Tom Green and talk about Hayao Miyazaki.
We almost did a full hour on Tom Green.
Well, let's do a full hour on Miyazaki. Just kidding. I'll be quick. So I guess to start off, just to address it again, the film came out in 2001, but was released in North America in 2003 officially. So
yes,
it had a long life of theatrical releases. And then, so it made a ton of money theatrically, but it also, it was the DVD blockbuster craze. Yeah. And a lot of people bought this movie and watched it at home. So it made a shitload of money twice. The film is inspired, so apparently Hayao Miyazaki would spend his summers in like a cabin in rural Japan or something, and he had like friends and their kids would come and they just like all hang out all summer. And so one of his friends' kids, basically, the main character is inspired by the 10-year-old daughter of his friend Seiji Okuda, who was an associate producer on this film.
Well, that must be a beautiful little time capsule for his family.
Oh, yeah. It must be amazing. And he wanted to make, he was really into like making a film for young women that wasn't like about romance or anything, but just about realizing that you're good enough and that you're strong and that you have something inside of you like the whole time, like your strength. And there's a really nice quote I want to read.
Wait, can I just bring up Tom Green again?
Yeah, please do.
No, I was just kidding.
I would love for you to bring up
I was
Tom
just
Green.
kidding. We've talked about it enough.
Guy. Okay, here's a quote from Hayao Miyazaki. I created a heroine who is an ordinary girl, someone with whom the audience can sympathize. It's not a story in which the characters grow up, but a story in which they draw on something already inside of them, brought out by the particular circumstances. I want my young friends to live like that, and I think they, too, have such a wish.
That's wonderful.
Isn't that really nice? I wonder what Tom Green's quote would be for his film. Do you think it'd be that sincere and heartwarming?
I think he's kind of a sincere guy, so yeah, I think it might be, yeah.
Okay, good.
Although I think he just said he wanted to make the funniest movie ever, was his goal, I think.
Well.
So similarity there, both had very clear kind of, but also against the grain intentions a little bit with their movie.
Yes. This, actually, I guess another similarity is both of these films are award-winning. So this film won Best Animated Feature Film at the 2000
It won Best Animated Feature in 2003.
Oh, it was 2003. Okay, interesting.
The last hand-drawn one was almost 20 years ago?
Yeah, well, actually, and they even, so interestingly, this is the first Studio Ghibli film to use a computer software.
Oh, yeah, you can kind
of
tell.
They use something called soft image 3D, so it's still hand drawn, but they use the software to like help with the production.
Yeah.
This image is this company is no longer around, but it's called Soft Image 3D, and that's what they used to make the film. But they used it very subtly, and they still hand drew all the characters. But it is like a very beautiful film, very well animated, pretty amazing.
Well, that's how animated TV shows and movies are made, like pretty much now. They just do it all in computer software. They use 3D software, I think, a lot of the time, but they just do 2D stuff. Like South Park is all animated in 3D software, but it's as 2D as looking as it can get.
Yeah, he wanted to make a film about a young heroine. He was reading, there's something called shoujo manga, which is like manga for teens, I guess. One was called Nakayoshi, and the other one was called Ribbon. And he read both of them, and like he took some inspiration from it, but he also realized like everything was just about like romance and crushes.
Yeah.
And he was like, fuck that. So he wanted to make this film and like find it very inspiring, just have it be a story about, strength and being who you are. The famous bathhouse is inspired by a bathhouse in his hometown. And he says there was like a giant tank with a door in it, and he never knew where the door went. And so he would write like stories and ideas of like all the mysterious stuff that happens behind the scenes, and that was like the inspiration for the location. Which is kind of interesting and cool.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. So this film, it had its release in Japan in 2001, and then so John Lasseter of Pixar fame persuaded the executives at Disney to buy the rights to the film in the U.S. to release it. And then he got Kirk Weiss, who is a famous animation director for Disney. So he directed the American version, and Donald W. Ernst was a producer. He's also a famous like animation guy. And the dialogue was written by Cindy and Donald Hewlett, and they had to write the dialogue to match the mouth. So they didn't match the script, they matched the mouths, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I did kind of notice that when I saw the dub of it at the movie theater a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and normally, like with anime and stuff, it just doesn't matter, and they don't give a shit, and it doesn't match, and that's great. But here, it is interesting. So if you look at the scripts side by side, they're quite different in terms of the actual dialogue. Like the beats are the same, and like what happens in the story, but the dialogue and the characters are very different.
Well, yeah, the subtitles even and the dubbing is different.
Mm-hmm.
Also, little tangent here about Freddy Got Fingered. No, just kidding again. No, but when it comes to anime, what side are you on, sub or dub? Just want to let you know, our anime fan will like be very angry at you if you say the wrong answer.
I love that you're going to be like, our anime fan.
Our anime fan, who's like the one anime fan who likes our
anime podcast. I dub. I'm not going to lie.
Wow.
Well, I'm only watching Naruto, and it's dubbed really well, but I've seen like Inuyasha, and that was subtitled. It's easy either way. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do like it dubbed.
I actually prefer it dubbed too, and I know a lot of anime fans are purists, and they love the sub.
Yeah.
But I think whatever. If it's got a good dub, that's one thing. If it's got a bad dub, then sub it. But sometimes you don't get the choice.
Well, yeah, that's true. So, but I find a lot of the dubbing really well done. So, I would rather listen to it for like the emotion of it than like reading and hearing the Japanese and like trying to like figure out where the characters are at. It's doable, obviously.
Well, they got for some Studio Ghibli movies, they got real celebrities to do the dubbing.
Especially the more recent films, The Wind Rises. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's the main character. A lot of heavy hitters. All the people in Spirited Away I've never heard of, but this is the first film that the female heroine was played by an actual child.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's kind of neat, because normally they just get adults to play the kids, and they just do weird, SpongeBob SquarePants voices.
Yeah.
But this one they used a kid who's roughly the same age, so that's kind of cool.
Like the woman who does the voice of Tuffy in the Tom and Jerry cartoon we watched last week.
Yeah, exactly. Similar. Like that's how all animation's
like
done.
Like a 60-year-old woman being like, "I'm Tuffy the mouse."
Exactly. You could You could have a side hustle, Mike, of animation VO, I think.
This is my demo reel of this podcast. I do voices every time, so it's my impressions and voices.
Yeah. Well, you did an impression recently that was not very good, but it was also a tough one.
I don't know.
John Malkovich. It was John Malkovich.
Yeah, it's hard. That's a very subtle one to do, yeah.
But so, like, aggressive and loud. Anywho, neither here nor there. So Hayao Miyazaki famously doesn't script out his films. He starts working on storyboards and the visual language, and then he said in quotes, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously, he's like, I don't make the films make themselves, and I'm just along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, once it starts, he lets the characters and the location kind of dictate what happens, which is why none of them really make sense, and sometimes nothing actually happens.
Yeah,
you're super into it.
This movie has an improvised quality to it, I can say for sure.
Yeah. Oh, another thing is the film was originally going to be like closer to 3.5 hours, like with all the beats and stuff. And then he was like, it's a kid's movie. That's too long. So they had to cut stuff out. And it kind of feels like, you know, the no face bit, like in the middle of the movie, that kind of just what didn't need to be there. You know what I mean? Like he's like eating up, gobbling up the employees and giving gold to everybody.
Yeah.
And then the sister subplot, like it just was very similarly to Freddy Got Fingered, just sort of sloppily introduced and used within the narrative of the film. It works. I guess the first similarity, well, not the first, like the third similarity is both films have a loose like narrative engine. One is like Freddy wants to get a job, I guess, as an animator. That's the plot.
Yeah.
And then in this, it's she wants to get her parents back to human form.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else happens around it, but it's not really about the plot, which is kind of interesting. So narratively, they have a really similar style, these two films.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, there's no script. There never is. Hayao Miyazaki, basically improvises. And he really had, this is like an auteur. I mean, you can't be an auteur in animation, but this is as close as you get, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote it, directed it. It's solid. It's the highest grossing Japanese film of all time until a film that came out in 2020 with a title I can't remember. But it held the trophy for a long time for making a ton of money. That's basically it. Another thing. So you know the one spirit, the river or the ocean spirit, comes to get cleansed, and then they pull that thing out, and it's like a bike, and it's all the garbage that you'd find inside of a river or the ocean. That's based on Hayao Miyazaki actually cleaning out a river, and there was a rusty bike that he pulled out of it, and so that was like the inspiration. So he does use he tries to like inform sort of social, I guess, like prerogatives or just like social messaging within the film, but he doesn't do it like thematically. There's just moments or like little anecdotes where it's like, oh yeah, water's polluted. Anyways, back to the plot.
Yeah.
And also just like the you know, there's just like a whole aspect of consumerism. Like the parents are driving an Audi, daddy's got a credit card and a cash or whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And they're consuming like piggies.
They're being pigs, like they're just consuming, and they're not very nice, you know. So he peppers in this sort of social messaging throughout the film, but it's never thematically done.
Yeah, it seems like the entire movie is just like a 1,000 different metaphors all happening at the same time.
Yeah. For a film that's so great, it's so meandering and like narratively weak, which is interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
I wonder if is it actually great though? That's my hot take. My hot take is Freddy Got Fingered is actually great, and is Spirited Away actually great? Because a lot of people love it, but also it's just kind of a mess of nonsense that's beautiful to watch, but it's still nonsense.
Yeah, but you know, you could argue like every film is nonsense. Like the narrative strength of a film is pretty subjective, and is it always necessary?
Well, you know? I think in the case of Freddy Got Fingered, not necessary, and it's kind of brilliantly dissected. Whereas this movie, it's like Hayao Miyazaki was just kind of improvising an animated movie, and then this was about as good as like a scene you'd see at an improv show on a weekend.
So you know what's funny, Mike? Before I sent you the Zoom link, I was like, Mike's gonna try to persuade me that Freddy Got Fingered is the good film and Spirited Away is the bad film. Like
Oh
he's gonna
no,
flip
I'm
it
so
on
predictable.
me in the podcast. I could just tell because you're so stoked on Tom Green. And I've been really into Hayao Miyazaki lately. Like I've seen 8 of his films in the last like month.
Well, I'm the same way with Tom Green. I watched all 8 of his movies in the last month, and
You watch Lactose?
I watched Laxdale.
Invasion?
I watched Stealing Harvard. I watched Road
Is
Trip.
Laxdale good?
I haven't seen it. I assume not.
I kind of want to watch it just out of morbid curiosity.
Well, you get to see not Edmonton, but you get to see a small town south of Edmonton. I think it was in Devon, actually. I think we filmed it in Devon.
Nice and cheap.
Yeah. Should we get into similarities, or do you got anything else about Spirited Away?
No, that's basically it. I think like Hayao Miyazaki's a really interesting filmmaker, and he's like a very wholesome dude. Like
Seems like
he's
it.
the real deal. He's like Mr. Rogers. Like he's the real deal.
Yeah. Well, we watched
You know
that
what I mean? Like,
documentary about him.
Yeah. I've seen that documentary, and it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a really wholesome dude. So he's very interesting. And there's a great documentary on him and his process and his career if people want to watch it. And it's on YouTube. So
I feel like I may have told this story on the pod before, but we went to Japan 10 years ago, and we were going to go to the Studio Ghibli Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And we bought tickets to it. We had tickets ready to go. We were going to take the bus shuttle, not the cat shuttle, unfortunately, but we were going to take the bus to the Ghibli Museum. But then we discovered that they were doing the Clockwork Orange musical in Tokyo. So we managed to get like pretty close to front row tickets to that just by some sort of
how was
fluke.
it?
It was amazing.
Clockwork Orange musical?
Yeah, but all in Japanese. Like it wasn't in English.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
And the music was like, there was some English words in there. So they basically, the opening song, they just kind of went through all of the Clockwork Orange slang.
Mm-hmm.
You know, horror show, da na na na, you know, something like that is like just kind of didn't make any sense. They had nudity in it and rape scenes, and also the main actor, the guy who played Alex, was kind of like the Justin Bieber of Japan at the time. Yeah,
cool. That sounds amazing.
It was awesome. So we didn't go to Studio Ghibli because we managed to get tickets to the Clockwork Orange musical.
So instead of going to see like a really wholesome museum about wholesome art, you went to like a much more like perverted, dark, satirical depiction of a really sort of postmodern.
Oh yeah.
You know, whatever, you know. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, I
That's
feel like
great.
I feel like I've told that on the pod before. I don't want to go back and listen to it. I don't want to go listen through all these episodes just to find it in the next.
Hey man,
24
let
hours.
the haters hate. You know, you like dubbed anime. Everyone knows it now.
Yeah.
So do I. I like dubbed anime. Fuck the haters. I watched Spirited Away dubbed. So
I watched
that,
it subbed.
haters.
I watched it subbed.
Did you?
Yeah, just because I'd never seen it that way. I wanted to see what it was
I
like.
should have done that.
People say that you get the better performance because it's the original actors.
I believe it.
But I don't understand what they're saying. So.
Yeah. Whatever. Okay, yeah, let's get into similarities. I just want to say out of the gate, like, there were a ton.
There was a lot, yeah.
It's almost as if they're the same movie.
I agreed. I will agree. You start us off.
All right. Both films start with a close-up of, like, a cartoon illustration.
Yeah, good.
So Freddy's, like, X-ray cat guy, and then Chihiro, yeah, she has, like from her friends, because she's moving with her family to a new town in their Audi. It's like a goodbye card, but there's a cute little illustration on it. Yeah. Anywho,
well, I mean, I'll build off of that. First of all,
cool.
X-Ray Cat and Banana Businessman are like kind of not too different from the characters it represented in Spirited Away.
Totally.
Like these kind of absurd, weird little background characters that litter the movie. But yeah, the movie does start with animation, of course, a frame of animation. It also starts, the story starts in a car with characters moving away. going to like, and then they end up going to like a land of dreams, i.e., La La Land. Los Angeles,
Yeah.
the land of dreams, Hollywood, blah blah blah,
And the spirit world.
and the spirit world.
To, I guess, get on top of that there, Mike. Both films depict a road trip.
Yeah.
And like car shots. And both films, depict having to explore a new location. So Hollywood, you see the sequence of him driving through it. He goes to the Hollywood sign and then eventually goes to the animation studio. And Chihiro explores the bathhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wanted to say one more thing about Spirited Away. There's a lot of literature suggesting that the bathhouse is actually like a brothel.
Mm.
And Hayao Miyazaki says fuck no to that.
Yeah.
And that's just not 100, like that's 100% not his intention.
If you've been to Asia, like bathhouses are a thing. Like when I was in Japan and Korea, like that's like a thing you do. People are like, you want to go to the bathhouse? And then you just go and sit in like a super, super hot tub for a while, or just kind of like scrub your undercarriage, sitting on a stool with a bunch of other naked guys. Like that's just a thing people do. It's fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. It makes sense. But yeah, there's like a lot, like people have alluded to it being like a commentary on like sex trafficking and stuff, and he's like, none of that is true. That's not at all what this film's about. So he's discredited all of it. Anywho, both films have an arrogant and aggressive father. So Chihiro's father is like a money man. He drives an Audi. He's kind of bossy. He doesn't really listen to the women in his life, aka his daughter and his wife. And he eats that food so aggressively without asking. The dad in Freddy Got Fingered is, just kind of an aggressive, mean guy, says some mean shit, kind of just makes fun of his sons, pressures them, kind of believes that it's his way or the highway, and just kind of a toxic dude to be around.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I mean, both movies are also just kind of about characters needing to have jobs,
Mm-hmm.
So the dad is
there's
obsessed.
Job interviews in both films.
Exactly, yeah. The dad's obsessed with Tom Green having a job in the movie always. Like that's all he wants for his son. And and when he was like, I got a job, Dad, and then he's just like, you got a job, and he's just so happy about it, and like it's that easy to make him happy. And then Spirited Away, like she is plummeted into a bathhouse, and then she just has to like, first thing she gets there, they're like, all right, we have a job for you to do, and then it's kind of just like the movie kind of feels meandering because it's just her dealing with the day-to-day stresses of like a bathhouse in the spirit world,
But also beautiful, man. It's a microcosm of life, So like, you just gotta have the right mindset, Mike.
And then both movies have characters taking an elevator to go get a job, like as part of their job quest. They take an elevator.
Also, both films are about animation.
They're about animation. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, like, Gordy wants to be an animator. He likes illustrating. He has show concepts. And Spirited Away is an animated film. And you couldn't do it without animation. Like, this story couldn't be told any other way.
Well, they're both technically auteur films about animation.
Yes, you're right. That's it.
Say what you will about Tom Green. This is his first and only directorial movie. But he is an auteur.
Well, he wrote it, produced it, and directed it, and starred in it.
Yeah.
Both films have cartoonish surrealism. So there's like animals and spirits and like hybrid creatures that are like, anthropomorphic or whatever, but also like a turtle or a duck or whatever, or like a dog dragon. And you see Tom Green hold a horse's penis.
Yes.
Which is pretty cartoonish and surreal. You also see him in the end credits milk a cow onto his face.
Yeah.
You see him flay a moose or a whatever on the side of the road and then get inside of it.
Yeah.
You see him do the baby birth scene.
Yeah. Iconic.
You see his friend's leg break and then continually get hit by different things.
Yes.
And also, I would argue like his performance is similar to a few characters in Spirited Away. Like the grandma, the granny is like very exaggerated and aggressive. The baby kind of behaves the same way Tom Green does.
Mm-hmm.
And one could argue they're both babies.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's there's just a list right there.
Well,
one more. Very aggressive eating scenes.
Yes, agreed.
So the parents are eating, they turn into pigs, blah blah blah. And then you see Tom Green pull out his chicken burger sandwich.
Oh yeah, right.
And he's yelling at his dad and his mom and he wants to eat. And then also the sausage piano figure bit.
And also when he bites through that umbilical cord.
Oh yeah, I forgot he used his teeth.
Yeah.
For that.
On that note, both films have a disturbing scene involving a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So we already kind of went through the Tom Green one, and then Spirited Away, there's a giant baby, and every time it appears with no pants, and every time it appears, it's kind of a little bit off-putting.
Yeah, that baby was probably the worst part of the film. If it had a onesie on, I would have felt better. But I guess like babies are naked, like that makes sense.
I guess babies are naked.
Yeah, and like, you probably just leave your baby naked a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Baby don't know. Baby ain't got no shame.
Yeah, exactly.
Both movies are kind of about a transition period in character's life because she's moving in Spirited Away, and then he is moving out of the house in Freddy Got Fingered. And both characters kind of feel lost in their like future. They don't know where they're going.
You could argue both films, like the character arc is identical in both films, and they realized that they had the thing inside of them all along that they needed in order to feel secure and succeed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and I'll go back to what you said about the surrealism of the film. Every scene in both movies are just like a little surreal set piece.
Yes. And a lot of vignettes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like both of movies are just a series of vignettes, I guess, that are surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And I would call both films surrealist masterpieces.
I'll give that to you, Mike. I'll give that to you.
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say both films have very explicit car branding.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So Audi is like front and center at the beginning of the film and the end of the film. And then LeBaron is what, Chrysler? And there's a whole scene.
LeBaron. It's a Chrysler
and they're
LeBaron.
Just screaming it over and over again. Freddy didn't get a LeBaron.
I love it.
So both films depict a child not wanting to be alone. So you have Chihiro. She's like scared and afraid, and she doesn't have she doesn't believe in herself yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and she wants her parents there, but they're little piggies. And Freddy doesn't want to be alone either. He comes over for breakfast, even though he's got a job. And he's a grown-ass man.
Mm-hmm.
He's still coming to the house, eating that breakfast, talking to his brother Gordy, talking to his parents. And he just doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And he's like a man-child, because they both are.
Yeah, everybody's a man-child, even the dad.
The dad's a man-child. The mom doesn't get a lot of screen time.
No, she's a very funny actress, though.
Mm-hmm.
Julie Haggerty, she's from Airplane.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so like
I love Airplane.
Rip Torn and Julie Haggerty as the parents is like that. As a comedy fan, that's like a huge get for Tom Green.
Huge get. They probably had to spend a lot of that budget on those two.
No.
Yeah.
Rip Torn was like kind of not doing anything after he was in that show he was in, the Larry Sanders Show. And then Julie Haggerty, I don't even remember if she was in anything after Airplane. She probably has been in so many things, but
yeah, maybe just small stuff.
Just saying you're wrong.
You and I always get into these little fights on the podcast, and it's so embarrassing because everyone's going to hear it, and they're going to know. We're airing our laundry for the world, Mike.
Well, it's not my fault. You're dumb.
All right, do you have any similarities?
Both movies are about characters that need their mom and dad for support. I did already say something like this, but I'll double down on it, actually. Both are considered surrealist masterpieces. Both are hugely influential, for better or worse, and redefined the form of like the whatever their format is, animation or I guess comedy in general.
I believe it.
Live action comedy. So that's a thought. But some superficial stuff. A character slams into a wall cartoonishly in the first act of both movies.
Mm-hmm.
So he's skateboarding. He slams into a glass window in Freddy Got Fingered. And in Spirited Away, she kind of picks up a lot of speed running down a hill and then slams into a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cartoonish.
It is cartoonish, you're right. Both films show the main character being somewhere they shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom Green is in the shopping mall, skateboarding, and he shouldn't be. He's a naughty boy. And Chihiro goes into the spirit world unknowingly with her parents, and they shouldn't be.
No.
And then all the badness ensues as a result. And also Tom Green goes to the animation studio. Should he be there? No.
No. In both movies, a hairy-faced man struggles with the temperature of water.
Wait, I need a refresher here.
A hairy-faced man struggles with the temperature of water. So in Spirited Away, there's the guy with multiple arms.
Oh, the Boiler Man.
The Boiler Man, and he's like, the temperature is like too hot or too cold or something like that, and he needs her to go do something so that the temperature can change.
Yeah.
And in Freddy Got Fingered, when Tom Green is in the shower with the scuba gear on, his dad turns the heat down on the temperature so it's all cold, and then he flushes the toilet and stuff. And he's concerned about the excessive water use as well.
Yeah, I forgot that Tom Green shoved his head in a toilet with a scuba mask on.
Yeah. He got the treasure. The treasure.
I hate this movie. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, I just fucking hate it.
Oh, that's fine.
God.
That's fine.
These scenes just kind of piss me off.
I don't begrudge you about disliking the movie. Like, I know some people will kind of get a little bit testy when somebody doesn't share a movie opinion with them. But
right.
It's like,
yeah, like I don't care what
it doesn't
people
matter.
Like or don't like.
Yeah, it totally makes sense if people hate this film. Like, it's not like it's a mystery to me that people don't like it.
Yeah, well, I like that you like it. Like, I admire that.
Thank you.
I also think you're an idiot for liking it.
Yes. Thank you.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
In both films, characters gift another character with jewels.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Like in Spirited Away, I can't remember who gives who jewels, but it involves, I think, the old lady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has jewels.
Yeah, so someone gives her jewels or she gives someone jewels. I can't remember who gives who, but famously in Freddy Got Fingered, perhaps not famously, actually, now that I said it out loud, he gives his girlfriend a bunch of jewels. He's like, I brought you jewels. I brought you jewels. Seems like Tom Green just loves the sound of some words, and so he just repeats them a million times.
Mm-hmm. I think that's it exactly.
And that is funny to some people.
To 50% of From Justin to Kane, it's funny.
Yes, the hosts. Perhaps,
yes.
I would say 80% of the K9s think it's hilarious.
Really?
No, I don't know. Who knows?
That's an optimistic prediction.
Sound off on our social media, K9s.
Yeah.
Do you like
Add
Freddy Got
us on
Fingered or
Twitter.
do you not like it?
Yeah. Both films depict flight near the end.
Yeah.
So they're flying like the dog river guy and Chihiro are flying, and then they are like falling in love, and she reminds him of his name.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gordy and his dad fly back on that airplane. And then the one thing I found funny was when they get out of the airplane and there's people holding up signs, and one of them just said, "When will this movie end?"
Yeah.
That was funny. I thought that was a good bit.
Yeah, it was great.
That's the only time I laughed in the whole film. When the movie becomes self-aware.
The movie, yeah, exactly. I think you appreciate it because you agreed with that sentiment also.
I was like, yeah, when? Well, also, it's an 88-minute movie, and it felt pretty long.
Yeah. Well,
but I will say Spirited Away felt a little bit long, too.
Well, comedy confirms people's biases, I would say, generally, most of the time. So people will laugh at a racist joke because they have racist beliefs, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly.
So you believe this movie was too long, even at 88 minutes. And so when the character in the movie acknowledged that, you thought it was funny because your biases were confirmed. So does that mean it's actually funny, or that it's a laugh of recognition?
It's a laugh of recognition, I think.
Yeah.
That's it for my list, man. So let's do a lightning round of what you have left.
Okay, here's a lightning round. And they're all pretty good.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I saved the
Somebody
best
sounds
for last,
cocky.
kind of.
Jeez. Wow. Guy watches Freddy Got Fingered and thinks he's so cool.
I thought that I was cool before I saw it.
You know what I want you to do, Mike, is read your Letterboxd review of this film.
Freddy Got Fingered?
Yeah.
I haven't written anything about it.
Oh.
My review so far is 5 stars. I
gave it, I think, 0 stars.
Yeah, you didn't rate it, yeah.
No, I did rate it. Like, I reviewed it.
Oh, you gave it a half star.
No, can't you give it 0?
I don't think you can.
Oh, then I didn't rate it, I guess. I got to give it a half star. I tried to give it 0.
It's crazy how wrong you are.
I just can't believe how stupid you are, Bob. All right. Tell me what's on this list.
The character who is a parent figure who owns the space that the movie takes place in for the most part. Kind of acts like a tyrant. So I'm talking about the old lady in Spirited Away and the dad in Freddy Got Fingered.
Yeah.
But in the end, we'll congratulate the hero for work well done. At one point, near the end of both films, a giant beast squirts liquid all over an old person. So there's like a weird kind of monster creature that is vomiting. It's like what No Face is, I guess. No Face, when he's that giant monster, he's kind of like vomiting stuff. So like the old lady gets squirted on by his kind of weird liquidy vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of Freddy Got Fingered, Tom Green masturbates a elephant and squirts his dad with it.
Yes.
That happens. And then saving what I think is the best for last, at the beginning of Spirited Away, Mom and Dad are eating at the village, and Daddy is eating what looks like is some sausage. So Daddy, would you like some sausage? And Daddy says yes in this instance. So in both films, Daddy wants some sausage, or would you like some sausage, I guess is a question being posed.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages? Daddy, would you like some sausage? Sausages, sausages.
Yeah, and the answers are different.
The answers are different, but at least characters are in some form being asked, Daddy, would you like some sausage?
Mm-hmm.
So
I just can't believe you like this film.
Well, I mean, we've already talked about this at length. We spent the half of this episode just talking about my experience with it.
Yeah. I wonder, I guess it's not worth dying on this hill.
No, we've gotten into this a million times. Like nostalgia is a like in some way it's like in some way it's kind of like the undercurrent of our podcast in some way, because it comes up so often that it's like this kind of poison that infects people in some way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like it's in the case of Ready
like greed,
Player One.
Like in Spirited Away, that like No Face is like a greed metaphor a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't know. It seems like maybe poison is a extreme word to use, but I don't know. I think that it can taint someone. I think it can taint someone's opinion of
talking about undercarriages again.
Yeah. It can taint someone's like opinion of something, because it's like, well, I just grew up, I was around that thing at the time, and so something that is not good can be considered good to somebody because they just happen to have been around it when they were a kid. I mean, we see that literally every single day, people issuing death threats because Captain America doesn't look the way that they want them to.
Yeah.
This is like happening this week. So
that's stupid.
It's just because nostalgia, like somehow your childhood bears some importance to your adulthood. Like, oh, I liked this thing when I was a kid. It's important to child me. Therefore, as an adult, I think this is very important to issue death threats now that I have the ability to.
Mm-hmm. Didn't you send one, Mike?
To you for hating Freddy Got Fingered.
That's right.
I spent hours cutting out those magazine letters.
Letters?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, God, that's a good bit.
Did you wonder who that was from?
No, I just threw it in the junk mail like everything else. I didn't even read it.
You get a lot of those.
I chucked it in the bin with the, all the coupon books. I just thought it was like an edgy coupon book.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
That's a lot of work on my part. Thank you very much for not digging.
I'm sorry. I should have. Yeah, I'll dig it out and read it.
Yeah, thank you, please.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I need to acknowledge your hard work.
Yeah.
And your crafting ability.
Because you're a fool for not liking Freddy Got Fingered. So, I mean, we're running super long on this episode because we spent a good, almost an hour talking about just Freddy Got Fingered by itself before we even got into similarities and stuff.
I like that. That's
but
good.
So you've been watching some Studio Ghibli movies sometimes?
Yeah.
What are your recommendations? What are your recommendations?
Castle in the Sky.
This is Bob's Film
good.
Corner.
All right, Castle in the Sky, love it. Great movie. Again, not really a plot.
Okay.
The Wind Rises, awesome. It's like a great character study of pre-World War II Japan and aviation history, which is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a lot of heart. But I got to say, something that I just love, because it was like a confluence of many things that I love, is Porco Rosso.
Yeah, okay. You love piggies.
I fucking love that movie. It is weak, again, in the plot department, but that's forgivable.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted like a little more from it, but I do love it. It's about airplanes. It's about like dogfights. It's about pirates. It's about the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's drinking wine all the time, which I love.
All right.
So yeah, I'd say Porco Rosso is a good time. And it is like a crisp, like 80 minutes or something. It is short.
Nice.
I don't like My Neighbor Totoro. Not a fan.
Okay. So we're learning
so
you
that's
have
a
bad
hot
taste
take.
throughout this podcast then.
All you're doing, Bob, is discrediting your taste in film, and I don't want you to be the co-host of this podcast anymore.
I've only seen Totoro once, and
Did you
I did like it, but I take back what I just said to you. You're not a fool you don't have bad taste. Yeah, I just have fond memories of Cat Bus is all.
No, like visually, Totoro is probably one of the stronger films, but not a lot happens in it.
Well, yeah, but
You know?
I mean, what
That's kind of the
Miyazaki
whole point, I
movie
guess.
does.
Well, Porco Rosso is like a fun. It's like watching Indiana Jones. There's like a lot of shit that goes down. There's like pirates and dogfights and bullets and like a cool entrepreneurial sort of undertone as well.
My old roommate way back in the day had a Miyazaki DVD box set. And I remember Whisper of the Heart being one of the like low-key great films that nobody ever talks about. Exactly.
Oh, I want to watch it now.
It is a coming of age kind of romantic drama.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is what it's categorized as. And I just remember it like is iconic because the characters love singing Country Roads by John Denver. And there's like something just so sad about this movie. I just thought it was so good.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Yeah. I'm going to watch it because I love me a good romance.
Yeah. They play Country Roads, Take Me Home, but Olivia Newton-John from Grease cover, not the original. So yeah, it's a beautiful little movie, and I remember seeing The Cat Returns also and not really caring for it.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Mike? Last thing to talk about, okay? Because you just brought up the Country Road song, The Needle Drop, in a Hayao Miyazaki film. I will say the best part of Freddy Got Fingered was the soundtrack.
Yeah, it had some good songs in it, yeah.
There's some real bangers, and they're like frequent. He uses a lot of songs.
Are you into punk?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it starts with Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
There's a Moby track, which was the thing to do at the time also, by the way.
Yeah, well,
Moby
this is the
was in every
same
movie.
year as like the Bourne films, right?
I don't remember,
Like,
but yeah,
I think Moby was really hitting his stride with movie soundtracks for a while.
He had that song at the end of Heat also. Remember we watched Heat, and
Oh, that's right.
so Moby's he figures prominently into a bunch of these movies that most likely that came out in the late 80s or late 90s. So
late 90s, early 2000s. We should do a Moby minisode.
We probably that'd be fun.
Yeah, and just talk about all the films he's had a song featured in.
So, and I was a big fan back in the day, so I would be interested to just talk about Moby for a while for some reason. We should do a Mobisode.
A Mobisode. Yeah, let's do a Mobisode. A couple of Moby files.
Well, you couldn't swing a cat in the late 90s without hitting a movie that either had Moby in it or Smash Mouth. Early 2000s, I guess, also. Because, like, Rat Race...
Couldn't swing a cat bus.
Shrek, Cat Bus, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mystery Men. You know, they all had All-Star in it. I think All-Star is featured in 7 or 8 films as just like a soundtrack needle drop.
Wow.
So,
that's nuts.
And Moby is like in so many movies.
Mm-hmm.
And wild stuff. He actually released I mean, we can cover this on the Mobisode, but a little taster. He actually came out with an album called I Like to Score, which is just a compilation of all of the movie's soundtrack songs he has.
Oh man, that's like he did the work for us.
Yeah, exactly. We could maybe even do a little review of that album or something.
Cool. Yeah, we should, and we should just go through because I bet we've seen every film.
Yeah. I remember
that a song's being featured.
I remember. Yeah, I had that album. I used to listen to it in art class. It was Moby was popular in art class whenever people got to bring their CD and put it and curate some music for a part of the class while people worked, and the Moby one always seemed to go over well.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it. Let's wrap this puppy up so that people can finally go on with their business.
Okay. Yeah, everybody, thanks for listening to another episode from Justin Kane. I'm Mike, and this is Bob.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
And come back next week.
If you liked Freddy Got Fingered, stop listening to this podcast. I don't want you here.
Don't listen to him.
Yeah, well, I mean, you should, but whatever. Mike and I will forever disagree, and that's why friendship is beautiful. Okay, see ya.
Okay, bye.